Welcome to the Mentorship Challenge. I'm Marc Wainer, and I've experienced the power of mentorship firsthand. In the early part of my career, I made lots of costly mistakes which could have been avoided had I listened, but I thought that I knew better. Fortunately, my attitude changed, and so did my fortune. And there is no doubt that mentorship has certainly contributed significantly to the success that I've enjoyed. With me this episode is renowned sculptor Angus Taylor. Angus, welcome. Thank you for joining us on the show. It really is a privilege and a pleasure to have somebody with your talent on the show. I can't even draw a straight line, so I'm always in awe of people who can do creative things.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So you studied at Pretoria University. What made you want to be a sculptor? What was it? Did you always want to do this?
To be honest, I didn't want to, because I grew up in a creative home. I had a painter as a mother and a journalist as a father, a writer. And we were creative and clever, but fairly poor. So I just didn't want the same as childhood and later life. So I started a BCom. It lasted a week, and I knew I'm going to fail this. And I had to pay my own way to varsity, and I joined an extra year in the army to pay that first year of class fees. So then I did psychology and art history, just to feel if I have enough talent to continue with this. And I think in that year I sort of realized that it's not all about talent and facility. There's lots of other aspects to the personality that's necessary to either make it or not make it in the arts. So only the year after I started with art. So the reason why is I'm fairly unhappy if I don't do it. So it's just a calling, I think.
Okay, so a painter paints with paint, and usually a sculptor is with clay or with granite or with bronze. But you use the most unusual materials. You use charcoal, you use grass, you use all kinds of things that to me seem, well, how does anybody even visualize what you're going to do with this?
Well, the reason for that was some years ago I was in New York when I was still very young, and visiting the art galleries, looking at the art in the museums, I thought, how could I contribute to the conversation art is having? And I thought that I'm South African. I know what I know from my experience here. I know of the very bright sun, and I know of the dark shadows. And I'd like to speak of that, because it's something I'm familiar with. It's a point of view I have that others don't. And when I speak, I think better I use a language, therefore material, from my environment, instead of using something unspecific. But if you work with a piece of stone, let's say from Belfast, that ages more than 2 billion years. I have stone from Barberton, 3.6 billion years. And it's incredible. You can pick this stuff up and work with it. So it's impregnated with meaning before you even start with it.
Being a businessman or trying to make stuff, if the market said, listen, the market likes little ballerinas, this is not something you're going to do.
No, I'm not going to do that. No. No, I must say that the market is a very dangerous thing for an artist. And to just quickly sum it up, I don't think there's any artist that go study art at university thinking, I'm going to make a killing. I mean, it's just not why you go study art. You can't do anything else because you love it so much. And even, it scared me tremendously, taking study loans and, taking all the money you earn in a restaurant, and it was long hours, I think 72 hours a week. And you put that into a degree that you think, when I'm done and I owe X amount, what am I going to do? Because you don't know what you're going to do. So not many artists make it through at the end. So when you go study, you pay for yourself. You never think about market or anything in that sense. But if you have strong survival skills, you'll get away. So, and passion. So initially, being nobody, you're young, there's no way to get an income other than casting the sculptures for older artists.
People say, once an artist dies, his work becomes more valuable. I suppose because now there's a scarcity value, there's going to be no more.
That is an aspect. It's also better with paintings because there's only X amount. With castings or sculpture, you can make more. That's one reason why I started carving it in stone and combining it with other materials, because only I can do it, nobody can copy it. What the market does after my death, I don't really care much about, because all I want to do is make sculpture while I live. Yeah. What the market does and how it does it is important, because I think that we had one lecturer at university that taught us a very valuable lesson in first year. So when you want to make something, you must consider the next three resources. If you have it, otherwise you can't make it. Do I have the time? Do I have the money? And do I have the skill? So in sculpture specifically, because it's so expensive and so laborious, I'm in my studio, I have up to 35 staff members permanently. So it's an expensive endeavor, to continue with monthly, yearly, annually. So if you want to make that, you must make sure that the market side is in a way sorted, that you can further also develop your work. But it's not the focus.
But a lot of people just follow what their parents did. My mother or father was a lawyer, I'll be a lawyer. Then they find they hate it and it's too late to change. So I think anybody looking for a career needs to find something that excites them and that they're passionate about. Otherwise, every day is going to be hard work.
Yes, exactly.
And if you really enjoy what you're doing, it's not work.
100%. It is I can't say it's hard because it's so pleasant. Because you go to work because you want to make the things you're going to make, and you're busy with this. And once you're almost done with this, there's always the next thing that's exciting you. So when this is done, you can make that. And it's an obsession. It's maybe a drug. But it's a wonderful and it's a healthy obsession. I've read numerous articles stating that the creative industry is one that we can't replicate through computer science that quickly. So an arts degree does not necessarily mean you become a visual artist. You can become a musician, like many of our ex-students has become. You can go into many other aspects, but it develops your being, your understanding, your visual communication, the way you look at things. And through that, maybe you find within IT a new leg, a new niche.
Did you have a lot of mentors along the way?
Definitely, but some of them aren't in the arts or in the visual arts at all. They might be from other fields.
Nobody can mentor somebody in what they're going to make, whether it's a sculptor or an artist. But I think that you're ideally positioned to mentor somebody who's in the field of arts on the business side of it.
Yes.
So could I ask you now and put you on the spot, how many of your valuable hours will you give to one of our viewers or one of the people who register as a mentee to teach them about the business of art?
I've taught for 20 years precisely for that reason. Again, it's gift economy. You contribute to the lives of others as people before you have contributed to yours. So I'll gladly help. 100%.
So I'm going to put you down for 35 hours.
That's excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have somebody, or do you know of somebody that would also be able to mentor somebody that you could challenge?
Guy's name is Nick Dreyer. He used to be the general manager of Ellerman House, the big hotel in Bantry Bay. Right. He started several other businesses now, and he's just always busy.
Okay, that's fantastic. Things. So I'm going to ask our production team to contact him, tell him that he's been challenged. Angus, it's been an absolute pleasure.
For myself.
Thank you for educating me a little bit in the arts. I'm certainly going to follow your career and interest. As a token of my appreciation, I'd like to give you a copy of my book, Making
Thank you very much.
If you ever want to get into the property business, maybe it will help you a little bit. If you would like to be mentored by Angus, please visit our website and register as a mentee. Welcome back. My special guest is Malcolm Goody. If you don't know the name, you certainly know the voice. Malcolm, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening to you, Mark.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
For the benefit of our viewers who may be of a younger generation and won't remember what I'm talking about, Malcolm famously was the voice behind the famous Springbok radio series Squadcast, kept us glued to our radios 9 or 10 at night, whichever day it was. You've also made a career, which I find very interesting, because people generally have some or other talent. What you've really done is taken a talent, which is your voice, and turned it into a career. Your mother, I think it was, who insisted that you have elocution lessons.
Absolutely correct. She became an elocution teacher in her own right.
Okay. So thanks to her, we have this voice which has been described as smooth marmalade combinations. I'm sure the people out there recognize your voice from the dozens and dozens of various commercials that you've done. You were brought up in Vereeniging.
Yes, I was born there.
And Germiston.
And Germiston.
And yet, notwithstanding the Afrikaans nature of the areas you grow up in.
My mother, when she was within earshot, I'd have to go the la-di-da route because she was terribly, terribly la-di-da. But when I was with my mates, I spoke like everybody in Vereeniging, Germiston. You know, I mean, this is the way you survive. You can't talk any other way, man.
In the early days of SABC, we didn't have technology like we have now. So when you were doing a show like Squad Cars, sound effects were people stamping their feet or using a washboard.
We had gravel boxes, we had boxes of sand, we had sound effects that resembled grass, which was in fact quarter-inch tape bundled together, and the effects that we created. We had a Frigidaire fridge door that closed beautifully. It sounded like a motor car.
And I believe that for certain shows, people dressed up.
Well, they did that for the news.
For the news. So
I came in right at the tail end when people dressed up. There were a few rebels against it and said, this is nonsense, this is radio. He's got a great face for radio, but you don't have to dress up. It was a tradition that had been started by Lord Reith at the BBC going back to the 20s. It was wonderful to see guys in tuxes reading the news.
Reading the news on radio when nobody could see them.
Attaching gravitas to the moment. Here is the news.
So throughout this early part of your career at SABC, you passed the audition, you have this wonderful voice. But did you have mentors, people who told you what to do and what not to do?
But that's very important, because what happened in the structure of an SABC, the English service was modeled purely on Radio 4 BBC. Every department, every official, every announcer, every creator, every producer was as it would be. The blueprint was BBC. So as a result of that, we had training from these amazing people. So you'd have a person like Stephen O'Reilly or Michael Todd or David Lloyd who'd been there, and they would say that this is the approach. And we even had a Scotsman who was our language advisor, Tom McGee, who spoke with his broad Scottish accent, who'd tell us what to do, and you pronounce it like that. It's Hayden, not Hayden, and things like that, you know. So we had these amazing, and they were my mentors. I'd have lessons with them. They'd spend hours telling you about news reading technique. There's a right way to read it and a wrong way. You have to read with understanding. And this is something that I would like to inculcate, should I ever mentor anybody, is please understand the meaning behind the words.
Then you left to freelance.
I left to freelance after 7 or 8 years. I was told that I would regret it, but it was a great turning point in my life. And I specialized in those days recording radio commercials, because that was in the early 70s, 1974 to be precise, and I did a lot of tobacco products.
You've also narrated TV for Discovery, for National Geographic. You're a master of ceremonies. So I have to come to one particular incident which I just love, and I'm sure you know which one I'm going to refer to. The 1995 World Cup.
My Mandela moment came so suddenly, so unexpectedly, I almost missed it. I was in the booth doing commentaries. We were delirious with joy. Joel Stransky had kicked us to victory. And in this delirium, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came this frantic knocking on the window of the booth, and it was Scotty Seward. He was executive producer of that 1995 Rugby World Cup final. And he said, quickly, Malcolm, you have to get down onto the field to introduce the president for the trophy presentation. I rushed out, ran onto the field and onto the stage. President Mandela was embracing his players. My boys, my boys, my boys. I called across to him. I said, President Mandela, sir, I hate to interrupt, but the world is waiting for the trophy presentation. Oh, so you want me to present the William Webb Ellis Trophy? Yes, sir, if you wouldn't mind coming up onto the stage to do so. Who are you? And what is your job? Well, sir, I'm actually here to introduce you. Oh, so you think I need to be introduced?
Lovely. I love that story, and I can just visualize it. It was a remarkable man.
And the spontaneity of the man, and the humor, it was just wonderful.
And then during the World Cup, or shortly thereafter, you buy a place in Franschhoek, and you become an olive oil producer.
Yes, there's a lot of, it's more romance, it's more the nice to have aspect. I planted olive trees, but I would never describe myself as a real olive farmer, although I try and sell myself off as an olive farmer. I've planted olive trees, we have successful harvests.
So the question is your olive oil as smooth as your voice?
I think it's smoother, actually,
Smoother.
If I dare risk a statement like that.
As you know, we didn't just get you here to talk about your olive oil. Purpose of the show is to get from you some of your valuable time to mentor people out there. So how many hours of your valuable time are you prepared to give me?
At least an hour a week.
An hour a week for how long?
I would say for a year.
A year, so that is 52 hours. What about 60? Just let's round it up. 52 is an odd number.
Yeah, 60 is on.
Generosity. So we've got 60 from you. So do you have somebody else, somebody similar field, a friend, a colleague, that you would challenge who you think would make a good mentor?
I do indeed. I have a friend who's a wonderful writer and a wonderful producer. His name is Tim Sandham, and he's making inroads into podcasts, either lifting them off existing broadcasts or creating new podcasts. And I think he's ready to take up the challenge.
That's fantastic. Our production team will contact him. We'll tell him that he's been challenged, and if he doesn't give us as many hours as you, we'll name and shame him on one of our shows. If you would like to be mentored by Malcolm, please visit our website and register as a mentee. There are literally hundreds of hours that have been pledged. It could change your life. So Malcolm, thank you very, very much for the hours and the challenge. As a token of my appreciation, I'd like to give you a copy of my book, Making My Mark. And it's really been entertaining. I'm joined with Mauritz Lotz. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to be here.
So for our viewers, Mauritz is probably one of the best guitarists in the world. You're a composer, you're a producer, a solo artist, a session musician. You've had an incredible career, incredible success. One of the things that really amazes me is when I see the people that you've either provided backing for, worked with, virtually every South African artist from Miriam Makeba through to whoever you want to name, and internationally a who's who of stars. People like Roberta Flack, the Bee Gees, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, Sting, Spice Girls. It just, the list goes on and on and on. How did you get into this music career? When did it start for you?
I started working with bands on weekends and started doing studio work when I was 17. And then from there on, the penny just dropped. I just realized this is it. I had no idea as into to what end or to what reward or to what destination this decision will take me. All I knew is this is what I wanted to do all the time.
But when did you start playing the guitar? As a kid?
As a kid, as I was about 10 years old, my late father introduced me to the guitar. He played a little bit, and he sat me down one day after work, and we showed me a few things, and then it just sort of went downhill from there, as I always say.
So I read that you're on, in one form or another, on about 4,000 recordings.
On average, I suppose. I don't really count them. But if I have to sort of average it out to the amount of years spent in studios and on stage and so on, then it probably amounts to that amount.
Do you find that these people, all these famous people, give you the time of day, are polite, recognize you for what you are, or are they rude and arrogant?
A lot of them are surprisingly very nice people. You know, I mean, I can't speak. I think everybody has bad days, I guess. I sometimes do recognize the quality that really inspires, and that is when someone is really in it for the music. Yes, the money is great, the fame can be great, the comforts of the lifestyle, everything is amazing. But somewhere along the line, even if they don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore, they still continue doing what they're doing. They're driven to create. I always say there's this compelling need to just do it, regardless of circumstance, regardless of geographics. And I think when I sometimes see that in someone, and that really inspires me.
Over the years, particularly maybe the last 10 or 12 years, the music industry has changed a lot with digital and YouTube.
Yes.
Do you think this is good, bad for the industry?
I have a love-hate relationship with internet media, purely because I think, personally, I enjoy the convenience, the accessibility of it. I think I've discovered a lot of amazing music and musicians through the internet, whichever platform specifically now, whichever site. The regulation of it is really an issue, because there's so much free stuff, and it is so accessible. So from a composition point of view, from a IP point of view, it really becomes challenging to regulate it.
Today we talk about likes and dislikes, and that's how things get measured. But can somebody coming into the music, and is it still a profitable business?
That's. I think it depends what you do. I think diversification is the big thing. If you're just a performer, that's one avenue. Yes, there's always a place where you can go and perform. If you have a computer, you can compose something or produce something, and so on and so on.
To the young people out there watching this show who would like to have a career in the music business in its totality, either as a composer, a player, a producer, what advice would you have for them?
Well, besides the obvious following the passion, I think there's a lot to be said of also not forgetting that you have the passion, because we do get sidetracked, and I think that's part of the internet issue for me, is the fact that it's easy to find out how to do stuff. You find out how do you weld, so you can YouTube it, or how do you play guitar, you can YouTube it. So I think there's a lot of that that's instantly available, which is fantastic. So the information is there.
I've got a talent playing a guitar. I've got choices. Somebody wants me to join a band. Somebody wants me to be a session musician. Somebody wants me to do this. And if you make the wrong choice, then your career's down the tube.
Exactly. I think that it definitely helps to have someone guiding you to, stay, I suppose, true to yourself as an artist, or whichever your way of expression would be, and channel that, hopefully. There are no rules in this industry, in my opinion, that say, well, if you do X, then Y happens. In my opinion, explore this, but the result is not guaranteed. So that's why passion and all your resilience need to be there to be able to say, okay, well, if this is not going the way I think it will or want to, then I need to keep on trying this or that.
South Africa is filled with people who've got musical talent.
There's a richness here that is really
unbelievable. And we want to
unbelievable.
find some of those people who've got talent, passion, drive, and the will to succeed. And we want them to be mentored by you. So I know you're a busy guy, you've got to think about composing. How many of your valuable hours are you prepared to give to mentor some of those people?
I'd probably go about 20, so probably a good number.
20, that's intense. What about if we went 24?
Okay, I'll meet you halfway, 24.
24, halfway, okay. I love your maths.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
that's what I'm good at.
Yeah, okay. So you stick to the guitar, I'll stick to the maths. That's fantastic. Do you have somebody that you can challenge to give us some hours? More than 24.
There's a colleague of mine called Luke van der Merwe. He's a guitar player, and we sometimes work together, and we have great conversations. And I think he would be, because I think it's also about the sentiment and the type of person. So I think I would probably challenge him. Okay,
so our production team is going to challenge Luke.
Yeah.
They'll get hold of him, tell him that he's been challenged by you. Mauritz, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to talk to you. I've learned a lot about the music industry. My kind of music stopped with the Beatles because of my generation.
Nothing wrong with that.
But as a token of my appreciation, I'd like to give you a copy of my book, Making
Oh,
My
thank
Mark.
you.
If you would like to be mentored by Mauritz, please visit our website and register as a mentee. There are hundreds of hours available. It could change your life. See you next week.